Sony are releasing a new telephoto prime lens into the G Master range. It's the new 300mm f2.8 G Master OSS lens. And there's quite a lot to be excited about there. I mean, a new G Master lens is always exciting, I think, because you kind of know the level that you're going to be looking at. So in terms of optical quality and build quality, you know with a G Master lens the kind of stuff that you're going to be getting out of that. And with an f2.8 aperture as well, that's nice and fast. This is not only going to be ideal for sports, but certainly indoor sports, you know, something where the light isn't ideal, but of course you're going to get good separation between subject and background as well. This is designed as a lightweight, fast aperture telephoto lens, which really comes in, really adding to that telephoto prime lineup we already have. We've now got the 300mm f2.8 with the new lens, 400mm f2.8, and then the 600mm f4. And I actually think this lens, the 300mm, works really well as a secondary lens to the 600mm f4. I think both of those, for someone who is shooting sports, for kind of a professional as well, they're going to work really, really well together. This lens is also compatible with the 1.4 times and the 2 times converter, which gives you quite a lot more versatility in the kinds of stuff you can shoot. That's going to make it much more usable for wildlife as well as sports, which I think is great, being able to double up with a lens like this. And like I mentioned, it's designed as a lightweight option. So it's about 1,470 grams, which for a lens like this is actually pretty light. And that makes it very, very hand holdable, which is great for kind of being on the move, being able to react to situations. A very versatile setup that is great for the kinds of stuff that you would typically shoot with a lens like this. So let's talk a little bit about that image quality. Now, of course, this has got the G Master level of sort of sharpness, resolution that you would expect from a lens like this. You've got super ED and ED glass elements to subdue chromatic aberration, minimal flare and ghosting, and the images that we're seeing coming out of this lens do look fantastic. Now, of course, a lens like this is nothing without nice, fast autofocus. Again, you would expect this from a G Master lens, and this absolutely delivers. You've got 2 XD linear motors, which we've seen in other lenses of this kind of level. That makes it nice and fast, very snappy. It's very, very reliable, working really well with the latest Sony cameras to get all the kind of shots that you want to get without you having to worry really ever about the autofocus. Add into that, you've got the Optical SteadyShot in the lens, which is going to make it easier to get certain types of shots. Now, there's 3 different modes on this lens. One is designed for slow or still subjects. One is designed for panning, and one is designed for kind of dynamic movement. But whether you're shooting video, so handheld video, which this makes a lot easier to do, or whether you are shooting stills but you don't want to use some crazy shutter speed, if the subject's not moving that much, you can get away with doing that. So that's a really useful thing to have, especially in a lens like this, where you maybe want to use it handheld, especially because it's light enough to do that. So let's talk a little bit about the design of this lens, because it's got some really interesting features in here. Now, of course, it's got the build quality, again, that you'd expect of a G Master lens. We've talked a little bit about the weight. It's also balanced very nicely, with the center of gravity being much closer to the camera. So it just feels more comfortable to hold in the hands. It makes for a much better shooting experience. And actually, that can also make it feel a little bit lighter, just because the center of gravity is so much closer to you, so much better balanced overall. Now, it's got things like the 4 customizable buttons, which you would probably expect on a lens like this, but it has got a few things that you might not expect. So for example, it's got this function ring towards the front of the lens, and this can work in a couple of different ways. You can either use this for power focus, so actually turning that, initiating constant speed focusing. That's the default setting for what this is set up as, but you can change it in the camera. And you can actually change this function ring to actually operate as a full frame or APS-C switch. So you can actually change on the fly whether you're shooting in full frame or APS-C crop mode, which essentially means by turning that ring, you can take this from 300mm to 450mm, which I think is really, really cool. It's a prime lens and you can kind of zoom with it. That's kind of wild, but what a great idea. What a really, really clever idea, and I really like that. So again, you can change that control from the camera to set it up to actually work like that, but I think that's a really clever way of having it, especially if you don't want to change out the lens for a zoom lens or change over to the 400mm or the 600mm or whatever it might be. I think that's a smart idea. Another thing I really like on this lens is the ability to actually add a filter. It's a drop-in filter holder. So you've got a drop-in 40.5mm filter holder. There is a circular polarizer that you can get to actually slot in there, but it means you don't have to have it on the end of the lens. You don't have to worry about having one of these massive filters. You can just pop that in there. Again, I think that's a really smart idea. I think especially for sports photography and maybe sports video as well, this is going to be a really useful lens. I think because it is so hand-holdable, because it's so versatile like that, because you can use it with the different converters, because you can use that APS-C full frame mode, there's a lot that you can do with this to really make it work for you. And with a nice fast aperture like that, the image quality is just fantastic. Everything looks great, but it's just so usable in all kinds of different scenarios. A really good addition, I think, to the G Master lineup. Now you can check out the lens, the full spec, all the pricing, everything you might want to know, but checking out the link down in the description, definitely worth going to have a look, because I think if you're into sports, you're into wildlife, this is going to be a really interesting one to look at. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. There's new content all the time. I will see you in the next video, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.